Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. We are back once again with another episode of my Rebuilding Blank series. This is a series where we take a look at a team and we rebuild them in the 2022 offseason. Just kind of my ideas, my thoughts and opinions, talking a little bit about what I think they will do, what I think they can do, or if I was the general manager of the team or the owner of the team or someone in a management / decision making position, what I would do with the team. You know, we kind of take a look at all their assets, all the free agents, all the people that they could potentially buy out, all the different potential lineups, and I think it's really, really fun. I mean, honestly, this is going to be the 4th episode in the series that I've made, and it's been a ton of fun to make so far. I definitely expect to make a ton more episodes. Now, obviously, I have already covered TSM, but that was a couple weeks ago. I think it was like late August, maybe even mid-August. Maybe it's been a month at this point. And some things have changed. So this is going to be my updated version of Rebuilding TSM. This is going to be the post-Bjergsen version. So we're going to get into that. Definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate it so much. Subscribe to Tip Today and all my latest content. You guys don't want to miss out on anything. We have a ton of bangers coming out in the near future. Next couple of weeks, next couple of months. Be on the lookout. You want to keep Germ on your radar. And consider checking out my Patreon. Patreon.com/IamGerm. We just uploaded a new podcast episode onto there. So if you're interested in getting that, check it out. With that being said, let's get right into this. We're back on the Excel spreadsheet. This thing's OP. And here's TSM. We have Hooney with an expiring contract in 2022. We got Spica, same. PoE, same. Sword Art, same. We have Lost, actually the longest, the asset the TSM has the most control of all the way up until 2023. Which is kind of funny. Obviously, most people, if you'd be like, oh, who do you want to not have the most control of? Who would you rather get rid of the soonest? You know, a lot of people would be saying Lost at this point. And then, obviously, you have Bjergsen there in the coaching role as of today, with the contract expiring on, like, November 17th, 2021. And it's funny because in the last video, I called that out. I was like, Bjergsen has not re-signed. He has not extended his contract. This contract is expiring. What is going on here? Why has he not done this? And I thought, you know, maybe there's going to wait till the offseason to get him a new contract. Or I also thought maybe Bjergsen was considering retiring altogether. Maybe he tried out coaching and maybe it wasn't for him. I know he had a Dr. K interview where he talked about how even as a coach, he has no free time. He's, you know, constantly looking at scrims, constantly looking at VODs, constantly coaching, constantly going to meetings, all this stuff. And he felt really overwhelmed, and he felt, you know, it's really busy. And I'm sure he loves it because I'm sure he loves being busy, and he's been busy for most of his adult life. But, you know, I thought maybe he wants to take a break. Maybe he wants to step down. Maybe he wants to be done. But now, obviously, the new news coming out is that Bjergsen could potentially or most likely will be returning to professional play, but that he's going to be testing the free agent market. So again, this changes the whole TSM rebuild because I didn't have Bjergsen in any of my possibilities. I didn't have that as a thing. So when we take a look at the 2022 offseason for TSM, some of the potential goals. Goal number 1 is keep Bjergsen. This has to be goal number 1. Whether or not you are able to complete keeping Bjergsen really sends you in so many different directions. It's going to kill your fan base. It's going to make people so upset, so mad, so disappointed if you're not able to hang on to Bjergsen. It's also going to make your team a lot worse, obviously, and it's also going to hurt your ability to recruit other free agents, other buyouts, other players to come play on your team. This guy is respected worldwide. This guy is class. He is a talent. He also is just really popular, has a lot of friends, has a lot of people that are dying to play with him. Keeping Bjergsen makes your team better because he's a great mid laner, but it makes your team better because you'll be able to get better players, you'll be a better brand, you'll have more fans, everything. Keeping Bjergsen is number 1. Number 2 is loading up around him. If you get him and after you get him, loading up around Bjergsen. Obviously, this guy is not getting any younger. Obviously, he has already contemplated retirement. Obviously, you know, we already lost him once, and we now know not to take Bjergsen for granted to get the most out of the time that we have with him, and part of that means getting the most talented roster that we possibly can around him. You know, that team in 2020, that was a damn shame that was one of Bjergsen's prime years that we had, you know, a wash Doublelift, a wash Biofrost. Spica obviously has became great, but he was a young player at the time. You know, it just wasn't a great TSM roster, and that's fine. You know, so every once in a while you do have to rebuild, but again, I imagine Bjergsen's not looking to rebuild at this point in his career. I imagine he is trying to win now. He wants a team that's going to win now, and if that's TSM, great. But if it's not, you know, maybe he's likely to go somewhere else. And then another goal to me is going to be spend that FTX money. You know, I think we need to not LCS titles. Who cares? Eyes on Worlds. I think we need to be making a roster that can, be competitive on the world stage. Bjergsen's only been out of groups one single time in his career, and I think he's a much better player than that. I think TSM needs to be playing for semifinals, for quarterfinals, and who cares? I mean, obviously, you'd love to win the LCS. That'd be awesome. But, I mean, you need to be ramping up for Worlds. I also think getting an outside perspective. I think one main problem I have with TSM is that they're so far up their own asses and always have been throughout their League of Legends history. They keep everything really in tight. They keep everything really in-house. The history of them is a lot of, the same players, the same movement over and over again. Bjergsen and Reggie have been at the helm of this for so long, and it hasn't been working lately. They need to get an outside, fresh perspective. They need to go land somebody big. They need to let somebody kind of take the reins, and teach them how to win in 2022. Obviously, maybe they knew how to win in like 2014, but in the last 4 years, they don't know how to win. They need somebody to come in and kind of revamp things a little bit, and I think they need to allow someone to. Obviously, TSM is a controlling organization. Reggie's a controlling owner. We'll see what happens in that regard, though. But those are my goals going into this offseason rebuild. Let's start looking at some of the different possibilities. So I think who we have locked in here is Spica, is damn near a lock. Obviously, there is some talks of him, potentially leaving, going to the LPL, whatever. I don't think that's going to be happening yet. Obviously, he's still under contract with TSM for 1 more year. We'll see if they re-sign him. We'll see if he comes back. We'll see if he wants to go to the LPL in maybe 2023. But for 2022, I think he's here. He's the reigning LCS MVP. He is an awesome, awesome piece. Obviously, the very first scenarios I want to talk about is, potentially swapping out Power of Evil. We'll put this guy over here, and obviously slotting Bjergsen into the mid lane. This is going to be a lot of the rosters that we're coming up with, because this little core here, this mid-jung duo of Bjerg and Spica, Bjerg has shown he's a guy who can play around carry junglers. He is a guy who can enable his junglers to be insane players. I think this MVP version of Spica paired up with Bjergsen at this point in both of their careers could be absolutely sick, could be absolutely nasty, and it's obviously something that TSM needs to keep together. Now, in terms of the AD carries, I think Lost is gone. I'm just going to pop him out. I don't really think I would put together any rosters that keep Lost on it. Again, we're talking about maximizing these however many years left Bjergsen has. If you're able to get Bjergsen on a 1, 2, 3 year deal, whatever, you need to be going all out. That's not Lost. I think you definitely sell off Lost. Sell Lost, get some money. I don't know who wants him necessarily. Maybe CLG, maybe one of these other lower teams, maybe FlyQuest, maybe Immortal, something like that. I think Lost is fine. I just don't think he is it at this moment. Now, Sword Art, I also assume will be staying. He has a massive, massive contract. I don't think TSM is going to be buying him out of that. He's at least a good enough player. He has that international experience. He's maybe not at the peak of his career at this point, but I still think he's pretty damn good, and I expect them to kind of build around him. Now, in terms of the AD carry position, there are a couple different ways you could go here. I think Tactical is an interesting option. I think this team of Huni, Spica, Bjerg, Tactical, Sword Art is something that could happen. Obviously, this is not using all of the import slots. So if you think that, obviously, Reggie, famous for the import tweet, stuff like that, if you do think he is a guy who is willing to use a lot of imports, you could go with BB up in the top lane. Has a great relationship with Bjergsen, has, for what we know, a great relationship with TSM. The fans love him. Obviously, the split up was a little bit rocky, but he went to EU. He had some good years. Potentially, you can go get a guy like Wonder up in the top lane. I think this would be interesting. Obviously, buying him out from G2. Is that going to happen? I don't know. It's possible. I think it is at least one of the possible rosters to throw around. Again, this guy's an MSI champion. This guy's a world finalist. He's a world semifinalist. He is something different that TSM does not have. Obviously, Huni has some of that stuff as well, but I think right now, yes, Wonder's coming off maybe not the best year, but I think going to a new team, going to a new scenario could maybe be really good for him or really bad for him. I could see him, cashing out and just kind of collecting checks in North America, or I could see him being really, really hungry and wanting to prove himself one more time, because obviously at the end of the day, he's a very, very fierce competitor as well, and it'd be interesting. Now, do I think Wonder is all that likely? No, but I think it's a possibility. I think Wonder's a possibility, but again, I do think Huni is kind of the most likely. Tactical, I'm just saying that because I think TL will be selling off Tactical, because I do expect them to go after an import AD. I don't know who their jungler is going to be, whether their jungler's Blabber or Santorin or whoever. I think they're going to have an import slot open after Core JJ gets his green card. They're going to sell off Tactical. Tactical could go to TSM. He could go to Cloud9, but there's some world where Tactical goes to TSM. Now, In terms of the other AD carries, obviously Reckless is going to be an option, and then you end up with a team like this: Hooney, Spica, Bjergsen, Reckless, and Sword Art. Obviously, Hooney and Reckless have some past relationships on Fnatic. Bjergsen and Reckless have long been linked to each other. We have Spica and Bjergsen. We just all kinds of great players. In at least a great player at every single position. Again, how good would this team be? I don't know exactly. Reckless, some people are saying he's coming off a good year. Some people are not. Sword Art, maybe a kind of wash point in his career. Kind of a lot of aging talent here. I don't know how much I love this team, but it's at least a possible roster. In terms of other 80 carries that could slot into here, we have Huan Feng. It's possible, again, a Chinese 80 carry that I think, people expect to maybe come over and play with Sword Art. We'll see how likely that would be. I think Doggo 80 carry could be possible as well. I think he's a free agent in this offseason. We'll see if that works out. I would be excited for him. I think that would be very, very interesting. And then you also have, like Viper, names like that. Who knows how likely or possible, whatever that is. I don't know. There's also, the possibility of Sven. If Sven wants to come back to TSM, Hooney, Spica, Bjergsen, Sven, Sword Art. That's kind of interesting. I don't know. It is definitely a possibility. And then there's not a lot I think you can really do with TSM, because I think jungle is pretty locked in. I think support is pretty locked in. Now, there is obviously some worlds where Bjergsen leaves. Now, let's say Bjergsen leaves TSM. Also, in terms of coaching, I think Grabs is very, very high on TSM's priorities. I think they should absolutely be looking to target Grabs. I think he is kind of that name that is an outsider that could really help TSM. I think Jat is also an interesting name for the coaching position. I don't think they should get Jat, but I think he is maybe somebody that is possible. Obviously, promoting Curry to head coach is going to be an option as well. So those are kind of the three options I see as coach. They could go get somebody else too, but coach is kind of hard for me to project. So if they decide to keep PoE, he gets his green card. Obviously, that's going to open up an import slot as well. You have a lot of the same options. You have tactical. You can import a top laner, BB, Wonder, maybe a Chinese top laner, maybe a Korean top laner. I don't really know all the different options too much. In terms of, there's not a lot of great names up in, that position as well. You have all the different 80 carries. You still have Reckless as a possibility. You still have Huan Feng. You still have Doggo. You still have Viper. But I think it gets a lot harder to attract some of these big name free agents when you have PoE in the mid lane. He's not Bjergsen. He'll never be Bjergsen. One of the other very, very interesting things is, what if Bjergsen goes to Team Liquid? Obviously, they would then have Jensen with 2 years left on his contract. They would have to sell him off. I think there is some world. I don't know what the percentage chance is, if it's 1%, if it's 2%, if it's 0.01%, if it's 5, 10%, I don't know. There is some world where we see a TSM Jensen again, same stuff. Maybe it's Reckless, maybe it's tactical. I don't know for sure. I think these things are all very, very possible. There is also a world where, say you think that, TL and Alphari have an impossible relationship to come back from. You could end up with a team like this. Alphari, Spica, Jensen, Tactical, and Sword Art, with the two imports being Alphari and Sword Art, obviously, with the kind of resident 80 carry mid and jungle. That would be interesting. I think this would be a team, that I would like a lot. I think it would be very, very cool, especially if you grab, a Grabs as a coach. These are all possible. And again, some of these rosters were just not possible before the Bjergsen news came up. I think the Bjergsen news increases their chances of getting a Reckless. I think it increases their chances of attracting any import, even the Chinese 80 carries, even the Korean 80 carries. I think a big decision with this roster is, do you want to keep Hooney? Is Hooney on that team that's going to make it to the semifinals for TSM? I don't know. I'm not totally convinced of it, but if TSM is convinced of it, then, you'll have to make the decision of whether you're going to keep Hooney or not. I think trying to re-sign Spica for the future is a big, big deal. Making sure you get Bjergsen back. I think you're kind of locked into Sword Art next year no matter what. Maybe there's some crazy rosters where, maybe TSM can get like Mickey or something like that. But I do think that's pretty unlikely. I think we will be rocking with something like this. But in the end, the roster I would like to see, obviously, is this. I would be going with, if it was the ideal world, I would be looking to buy out Impact. I think Impact is really the best Native American top laner. I think Licorice I would rather have than Hooney as well. But being realistic as I can, I think this is the roster I would like to see. Hooney, Spica, Bjergsen, Reckless, Sword Art, and Grabs at the coach, with Curry and Kays as kind of like the, strategical minds and everything, if you think Grabs is lacking that area a little bit. But again, I know we've talked about a lot of these scenarios already, but once Bjergsen dropped this bomb on us, the game changed. The TSM Jensen becomes a possibility. TSM Bjergsen becomes a possibility. TSM Reckless becomes more likely. And yeah, we just have a ton of new possibilities. So I wanted to get this new updated TSM rebuild out to you guys. These are some of my updated thoughts and opinions. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. What do you think the 2022 TSM roster is going to look like? What do you think it should look like? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay updated on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.